What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin Sports Network podcast. I'm your host, John J. II, here on a Wednesday, the 30th of July, 2025. And basically, this is the calm before the storm. That's what today is. That's what this month is. That's what going into tomorrow is, especially for NFL fans around the world, around the globe, fantasy football enthusiasts. Everybody's included. And that's to introduce the Hall of Fame game between the Chargers and the Detroit Lions. Now, these two teams are the only two teams in the NFL to play 4 preseason games. Now, we've teased it in the past. Why don't they just include those games as games of part of the season games, part of the overall record, not just a preseason. We don't need 4 games. We don't need 3 games. And that discussion has been brought up in the past. Now, whether or not that has any validity is another discussion. But obviously, they're adding games. They're continuing to add games. It's a lot of football. I get it. It's not like baseball. It's not like basketball. You can't load the schedule and stack games on top of each other and whatnot. Even though they seem to have been able to do it to some extent of the word, both in the NFL, not as much as the college football scene, though. NFL, it's happened to, but not as much as college football. So we've seen it happen. We love more football. We're not going to complain about more football. Obviously, it's strenuous, and once you get to the end of the season, the roster can be running thin. But obviously, this is going to be a game. It's more or less a formality. It's something that has some novelty to it. It is the Hall of Fame game, so it has some essence to it. That's bigger than the sport. But even still, it has some competitiveness to it because you still have to play it, still have to treat it as a preseason game, a preseason matchup where you're going to have players showcasing their skills that might not otherwise. Some of these players might not even be on the team yet. They might not have made the roster, but they're trying to prove themselves in a real game scenario, in a real game situation. So they're playing in Canton, Ohio. I vividly remember playing NFL Street, and any chance I get, I'll plug in the PS2 and run a couple games because I love doing it. And it's just one of those things that it was one of those games you grew up with. You grew up playing it. You played your brother. You played your buddies, and it was cutthroat. It was cutthroat. Competition was at the highest level. They had the Hall of Fame field on there in Canton, Ohio. And it really made you think, wow, these are the guys, especially if you play with some of the Hall of Fame guys at the Hall of Fame field. Now this team is stacked. Lester Hayes, Larry Csonka. The list goes on and on, okay? Seeing these guys, Ken Stabler, okay? A lot of these guys, they laid the foundation of modern football. That's what they did. That's what they came to do. That's what they wanted to do. And that's what they stood on, is building a legacy. They didn't know it at the time, but they stood on building that legacy to really give everybody football that we have today. Now it's sad because looking at what it was back in those days is it was football at its finest. It had the brutality, it had the filth, it had the grit. It really brought to life the term gridiron. It really brought it to life. And seeing that come to life and seeing that start to dwindle away as far as the brutality, as far as the contact, as far as some of the rules, it's not a step in the right direction, in my opinion. Now, others have different opinions on that. Okay, Robert has a much more optimistic look on it. Yes, he's still concerned about seeing the sport that we love, that we grew up with, that we aspired to play in high school. We wound up doing that, and we looked up to a lot of these athletes growing up, playing from young men. But he has a more optimistic view on it, and that's much needed because I have a more critical view on it. And it becomes is forced optimism. which forced optimism isn't true optimism. So he helps me see it in a better light that I appreciate him immensely for. So you got the Hall of Fame game. It kicks off the NFL season, the preseason, and the Lions are playing. The Lions are playing. Now, people have asked me going into 2025, going into the 2025 season, what are my views on the Detroit Lions? Now, I want to see them do well. I've always said that. I've always stood by that. I want to see them do well. I want to see them succeed. I love Dan Campbell. I like the team. Okay, I like seeing what Brad Holmes has done with his program, really turned around not only the team, but the city of Detroit. And he's put the city of Detroit on his back. So we're appreciative for that, the hometown love. But I got to see a lot of the kinks because a lot of the glitz and glam is starting to fade away into the background. And that's why they lost when they did last year. Now, some say they could have gone all the way with the team they had, with the schemes that they had. But I disagree. And I was saying that I was looking at the writing on the wall when the true grit fans were blind to it, and maybe forcibly blind. They didn't want to see the writing on the wall because they had the faith, the blinding faith that told them, we don't give a shit if we have some blemishes on our offense. We don't give a shit if we have a lot of players missing on defense. We're going to find a way. We're going to find a way to that Super Bowl. And it just wasn't to be because there was missing pieces that really caused a fault, an unfixable fault in the foundation of that team, both on offense and on defense. So that's what happened. That's what I'm looking to see if they can make those adjustments, if they can fix. Now, there's certain things you can't fix, like the athleticism of Jared Goff. And I say that bluntly. I say that maybe with a little bit of rust on it. But the truth of the matter is, did Jared Goff make a full 180 transformation in the athleticism department when it comes to scrambling, when it comes to moving in the pocket, when it comes to getting outside of defensive ends and rushing for a couple yards if he has to, the do or die downs? Can he do that? Can he convert on those do or die plays? Now, he's proven that he can, but it's usually with the prayer of a pass with a receiver in the flats or a slot that's coming across the middle, shallow. You're not always going to have that. Sometimes you got to create. And you know who I'm going to use as my benchmark? It's the man himself, Josh Allen, of the Buffalo Bills. You ever heard of him? Now, there's this distinct similarity between the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. That's why it would be a perfect Super Bowl. We would love to see it. It's been projected. It's been predicted for a long time. It hasn't happened. Neither of these teams have made it to a Super Bowl, at least in the modern era. But there's a distinct similarity between these two teams. And that all surrounds around getting over the hump. Finding a way to get over the hump. Finding a way to just be that much better in situations that you haven't been as good as in. You haven't proven yourself in. You haven't won the tough games. You might have got away with a couple games. That's not because you were given those games, but it's because maybe there was some luck involved. Maybe there were some elements that worked in your favor. Maybe it was a call that was made that worked in your favor, which I would say the Lions seen more calls go in their direction this past year, than they ever have, at least since I've been watching the Lions. Usually those calls, those 50-50 calls, they're going against the Lions. So to see that happen, to see a lot of those games go in the Lions' direction and to see them win those games, that's big for the Lions. But you can't bank on those things happening going into the future. So fixing those issues, doing what you have to do to make the adjustments, to get over the hump, to win the gritty games, to convincingly win the games that you already convincingly won, and maybe win a couple of those games where you might not have been projected to win. Getting over the hump. That is the paramount statement of this season. And they have to do it, both the Bills and the Lions, if they want to succeed. If they want to do better than they did. I mean, if they don't, if they're content and complacent which I think a lot of Lions fans and the Lions themselves, even with the banged up situation that they found themselves in, they were very complacent towards the end of that season, and they were on their high horse, but they were brought down very quickly by a blinding light. And we're hoping that they can get back on the horse and fix those mistakes. They're a smart team. They're young. They got some poise. They got some veterans on their team. They got a great ownership panel. They got a great coaching staff. Obviously lost a couple guys, but you rebuild. Those are tough shoes to fill, but there were shoes that had to be filled. And the lucky thing is, especially you think about Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. That's what I'm talking about. Those systems have been put in place to be self-sufficient. You basically need someone to fill that role and maintain what has been established. And you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. So, Hall of Fame game coming up tomorrow, 8 p.m. on NBC, Peacock, and NFL Plus. Canton, Ohio, baby. That's where it all begins. That's where it all begins. So we're getting fired up. I've talked a lot of shit about the NFL season. Okay. I've talked a lot of shit about the NFL season and just the NFL in general, mostly because I'm bitter about some of the rules changes that have happened. But it's still football. Still football for now. Bet with Gin. The boys are hitting Canada this weekend. We're going to get activated. Okay. I heard they got a sports book in Caesars Windsor. So we're going to tear that up, get some slips, throw them down the table, throw some money around, and we're going to have a great time. We're excited for it. Just getting that slip in your hand, there's something different about it than just going on your phone and looking at the slip digitally. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and I'm excited. Another thing that's going on, I've been talking to my MLB connoisseurs. They're talking about the MLB trade deadline, which is tomorrow at 6 p.m. We're focused on it. We're looking at it. We're kind of got our eyes dialed into the postseason. That's what everybody's looking for. And this is a great tool on CBSSports.com. They're posting live updates. 19 minutes ago, the Tigers add a reliever. The Tigers announced they've obtained veteran right-hander Rafael Montero from the Braves for minor league infielder Jim Jarvis. 5.4 ERA, 1.7 strikeout to walk ratio after making 39 combined appearances between the Astros and the Braves. Not a bad pickup there. You need a reliever to relieve some of those guys when they get tired. And I know the Tigers have been going through it. We're going to have Chris Kuhn on the show Monday to talk baseball, talk postseason projections. We're excited to have Chris on. It's been a minute since we've had Chris on the GSN. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a hell of a conversation. But talking about the Tigers, they went through a little bit of a rough patch. Okay, they were sitting atop their division, and next thing you know, they're losing 10-plus games consecutively. And they're not making good decisions. They're not saving games that they should save. They're not staying in games that they should be staying in. So they seem like they're bouncing back against the Diamondbacks in the last two games of their series with Arizona. But they got to continue. They got to continue and persevere. Chris is a big San Diego Padres fan, and they're always electric to watch. So I want to get his take on what he's looking at this season and especially what his projections are going into the postseason. So it's going to be a great time. Looking forward to Monday. Okay, starting tomorrow, we have the Wyndham Championship. These guys are teeing off early, 6:50 a.m. at Sedgefield Country Club in Greensboro, North Carolina. A little bit of a tongue twister there. But this is a great venue for golf. This is a great event. Okay, it's not a major. They call it a glorified major just because it's such a great tournament. Got to tip your cap to Kitayama for winning the 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities last week. What a performance. What a round 3. And way to finish it off with a great round 4. All right, he made it happen. Aaron Rye is the reigning champion at the Wyndham Championship. We'll see what he can do come this weekend. Obviously, North Carolina is just a great location for golf courses. It's something about the area, something about the landscape that makes it perfect for golf, prime real estate for golf. So we're going to be focusing on that. Got to get Sobo back on here. We got to talk to him about golf. He went on a little bit of a vacation for his birthday, so we'll talk to him about that as well. We got some stuff to chop up with Sobo, so we're looking forward to doing that. Even though we're done with majors for 2025 in golf, we can still make projections for the FedEx Cup. So I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to it. Last but not least, actually, you know what? We might talk about a little bit some other stuff. Okay, yeah, we got a couple more topics here tonight before the night is out. I know it's late. But give me a chance. Give me a chance in your heart, and we'll get through it. We had some controversy in the pro capper department. We're not going to talk about it on here, but there was some shit talking going on. There was some shit talking going on between number one and number two as far as the standings, how they finished up last year. And there was some debate on how trades should have been handled. So now every league that I play in, I'm saying as a PPR league, it's got to be a PPR league. And two, how are trades handled? How are they mitigated? What are the rules? What's the charter look like? Because we got to get these things figured out beforehand. You can't be mid-season and be debating on, we got to have a consensus on trades. We got to be within a certain point range. This shit has to be decided upon and agreed upon before anybody signs up. So that's just kind of how it's got to be. That's not me being a hard ass. That's me just making sure everything is in tune and in line with how they should be done. And not only that, but most importantly, diplomatic for the entire league. Okay, this year we're going to be using a different model. We're using a co-commish model. It's going to be Robert and I. We will have guaranteed spots in the league. So that leaves 8 spots open for everybody else. And it's going to be a first come, first serve. It's going to be an open invite type of situation. So for those in the Discord, they will be notified on that. If you have any interest in being a part of that, let me know. We'll get you in the Discord to discuss that and to figure it out. And it's a time is of the essence thing. So we'll go over the rules and parameters at a later date, but it's coming. I'll tell you what, man, totally off topic. But I've been drinking a lot of tea, and I'm noticing some improvements, okay, digestively, mentally, clarity-wise, drinking more water, eating more lemons, starting with a concoction in the morning, which is comprised of cayenne pepper, cinnamon, turmeric, and apple cider vinegar with water. I highly suggest doing it. I've noticed great things happening health-wise. So give it a try. It's not the best concoction, okay? It's not the best, most tasty concoction. There's a lot of flavor to it. But when you talk about optimal flavor, like eating a piece of pie or a piece of chocolate cake or a piece of pizza or lasagna, it's not like that. It's not like that. Quite the opposite, actually. Still have the flavor, but it's the melody isn't there as much. So give it a try. Give it a try. You won't regret it. We got to have the golf tip from Johnny Golf. And this week's lesson, this week's word to the wise is maintain. So when you're playing golf, you might be playing well. Okay. The biggest advice I can give you is maintain that same mentality. Maintain the same swing path. Maintain the same aggressiveness towards shots. Maintain the same commitment towards shots, towards putts, towards yardages, towards going for it with the right clubs. Okay, now if you're in between clubs, like I got to give you an example. From 130 to about 145 is kind of it's a dead spot for me. I can't find a club for that range. It's just a little bit it's too much for an A wedge, but I really got to throttle a pitching wedge. Really, that's the only way to do it is throttle a pitching wedge, flight it in low, and hope you get within that yardage. But I hate to say it, but you'd like to think that you have full clubs. I'd say from 100 on to 220, maybe 250 with a three wood hybrid range. But usually I'm only going off feel inside 100. Okay, I'm not swinging full more times than not inside 100. So I got to use that same. I think I got to use that same mentality from that dead spot range, which is 130 to 145. And if I can do that, I guess that's a better attempt than going full, trying to swing too hard out of my shoes or put it in the back of my stance with an A, or on the contrary, swinging as full as I can, but still throttling, doing a forced throttled shot with a pitching wedge. It's just not worth it. So going with feel, light swing, you're still throttling a pitching wedge, but it's more of a smooth swing. You're not throttling a full swing. So the lesson is maintain your style of play and commit to every shot. Don't be like, all right, I'm playing really well. I just want to par out. Terrible mentality. You still want to go for birdies. And then at worst case scenario, you're getting par. Okay. Maybe on the off chance you might get a bogey. But you're definitely not getting worse than that because you have the mentality to shoot low, to attack these greens, attack these pins. And if the course is in good shape, then more power to you. Swing for the fences. But maintain the mentality of dominating the golf course. You're going to be fine. Keep everything else in check. Mechanics, make sure they're sound. Keep the head behind the ball on the drive. And just swing the club. Just swing the club. Don't overcomplicate it. It's an easy game. Remember, that was last week's lesson. It's an easy game. You complicate the game, that's when it becomes hard. Case in point. We're just outside a month out from the Gin Sports Network Challenge 6. Make sure to get registered, get signed up ASAP. The link to register will be in the description of this podcast. Good deal, ladies and gentlemen. We'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for tuning in on a Wednesday, the 30th of July, 2025. This is the 114th installment of the Gin Sports Network podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.